Gouache is such a fun medium to work with. It has a silky smooth texture to it. It dries to a matte finish. It is very opaque, but you can also do glazing with it, where you thin down the paint a little bit and use it similar to the way you would use watercolor. So I want to show you some different ways to use it so that you're successful in your paintings, and we'll create 6 little mini paintings on this sheet of paper. So the first thing I've got is my watercolor paper. I have some washi tape that I'm going to use so that I can divide up this paper into 6 sections. So I have my gouache set that I'll be using with a mixing tray that I've cleaned off and prepared. These are the brushes that I'm going to be using. I've got a variety of small ones, medium-sized ones, big ones, but you can use any set that you've got available. I also will need paper towel and a spray bottle so that I can spray my gouache set to keep it wet. The cool thing about gouache also is that even if this lays out and dries, it can always be reconstituted if you just spray it down. We're going to start by making a blend right here. I used a palette knife and got a little bit of blue and white. The first thing I need to do is dip my brush into some water, and I need to create a smooth blend over here. Okay, so you always, when you're working with gouache, you always want to blend it out on your palette like this first, ahead of time. Okay, so I'm going to get quite a bit of blue, pulling it over here, and I'm creating my blend. I'm going to dip my brush into a little bit more water, and then I'm going to start applying on the top. So I'm going to just be going across horizontally. Dip my brush into some more water. And I can tell that I need more water on my brush. So I'm going to continue adding more pigment so that I don't see the strokes anymore. Okay. And I want to come down. Since it doesn't have another color on it, I can just grab right in there. And then I'm going to turn the brush to an edge, to a 45-degree angle like this. And I'm just coating it very, very gently so that I don't see any lines. If I press down hard, then I'm gonna see those rough lines like that. I don't wanna see that, so I'm just gonna turn it at an angle so that the pigment lays on top of the paper and starts to soak in, okay? Then what I wanna do is start transitioning to the white. And what I might wanna do is take a fresh, clean brush and dip it in. And I'm just gonna grab some of this white that has not gotten any blue on it yet. I've got a lot of water on my brush. You need a lot to do this. And then I'm going to apply the white right here and then start grabbing a little bit of blue as I go upwards. A little bit more blue. And I'm going to run into, the goal is to run into the dark with the white. Continuing to kind of mix it a little bit darker as I go. And then I'm blending it up into the blue like this. Okay. And the last thing I want to do is add more blue now that it's looking good. But what I want to do is I can see that it's going from blue to a lighter, and then it gets a little bit darker right there. So to rectify that, I'm just gonna dip it into a little bit more white and go over that area to make that lighter. Okay, and then just start coming down. Oops, I'm noticing, see how it's leaving a texture? I had to dip my brush into the water just now because I don't want that texture to occur. Okay, I'm going to go back and forth very lightly all the way to the bottom. All the way to the bottom. Okay, so I want a smooth transition from dark to light. For my next square, I grabbed a little bit more blue. See, it's a different shade than this blue with my palette knife. And what I want to do is use maybe the same brush. I'm thinking of using the same brush. I'm just going to rinse it out in the water real quickly to get some of that out. And what I want to do is we're going to make clouds on a blue sky area on this one. Okay, so I'm going to use my palette and get a good blend first. You always want to blend first. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing where I'm applying the color. I'm adding a little bit more water here. I'm going to apply the color back and forth, not pressing down real hard. Okay, getting a little bit of white and mixing a lighter shade right here with a little bit of that extra white that I had. I'm noticing that I need more water, so I'm dipping it into the water. I'm adding more water. I have a smooth consistency going on here, so that means that I can add it. Okay, a little bit more white. And continue adding all the way down. So again, same as before, from darker to light. Okay, if you want it, if you see what I'm seeing here, just a little bit strokes, then I just grabbed a little bit more of that color that I previously started with. Notice that you don't really need a lot of color for these little squares. And then I'm just coming down. So there's my smooth transition. We're gonna let this one dry, and after about 10 minutes, we'll add clouds to it. The next technique is gonna be a forest scene here. And notice how, this could have happened to you, but notice how I've gone into this area a little bit with the blue. That's okay if that happens. I probably should have paid more attention and not gone as far out, but that's okay. So for this next technique, you need a dry brush. So I can't use these brushes. I've already used them. They're too wet, so find a dry brush. This one is bigger, so I'm gonna use that one as opposed to one of these, okay? So what I wanna do is grab some of the color, a little bit of it. Now I'm just dabbing a little bit, tiny bit on the tip of my brush, just to get this color flowing just a little bit more. And I'm gonna just do blotting, okay? We're gonna do a forest scene on this one, and it's just gonna be a little bit of blotting to start with, okay? Dip your brush into a little bit more water. I'm gonna start to wet it down a little bit and blend a consistency. I can pull some of that other green color in if I want to make it a little bit darker. And then I'm just gonna go in and make some wetter splotches. And then I can also grab some of this green, do a little bit of a smooth blend first ahead of time on your palette. And then go ahead, if I want to cover up some of this blue, I can cover it up with the green. Won't even be able to tell in the end that I accidentally did that. Okay, and I can pull some more. Just add some splotches. Add maybe a brighter area right in here. Just a brighter area right there, okay? On the left hand side, because what I'm going to do next is grab a skinny brush like this, okay? Dip it into your water, grab some of your brown, and make sure you've got enough water to get a good consistency going like this. And then what I want to do is start making some tree trunks. I'm gonna make one big thick tree trunk. It just kind of comes up. And then I'm gonna make some skinny tree trunks that have a few branches coming up like this. Using the very tip of your paintbrush, you can make some really good little branches just with the tip. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just a little bit to make it look like it's got a forest in there. We're going to let that dry and we'll come back and do some glazing on top of it. It looks like this one is dry now. So I dipped my palette knife into the water. I'm just going to clean it off because now what I want to do is get some white. So I'm going to grab some white. There are a couple different whites in here, but I'm just going to grab a little bit like that. Okay, just going to put it on my palette right here. And then I want to use a different brush now, a brush that I have not already used to make my clouds. And looks like I've got this one right here. It has not been used yet because you want to have a somewhat of a dry brush. Okay, so go ahead and get your pigment on there. It's going to be very dry and sticky, but what you want to do is brush across like this for clouds. Okay, just start. We're going to layer them. So just keep turning your brush so that a little bit more comes off. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a little bit more and I'm just going to layer. A little bit of layer. Okay. I can always take the spray bottle. I'm just going to add a little bit of water like that with my spray bottle, or dip a tiny tip of your brush in there. I'm going to come over here and do a blend because I don't want to get too much water in it. You don't want it to end up being a wet on wet or anything like that. So I'm just going to do this. That way I've got a little bit more color. Now determine which areas you want to be darker. You can just kind of brush on top like this. Now the one thing you don't want to do is push down hard. Okay, and you want to always go in one direction horizontally. Don't push down hard because if you push down hard, you're going to reconstitute that color. And I can already tell that if I were to go over these areas a little bit more, I'm going to start reconstituting that color, and I don't want to do that, okay? I just want to coat the top. Okay, and then if I wanted to add just some more wispy ones up here, I can do that. But this is how you make clouds look realistic. Instead of making round fluffy ones, this would be a good way to make just stratus clouds. They're kind of going across the surface of the sky. And of course you can layer as much as you want. Okay, I think that's good. Leave it like that. So for the next square, we're going to use more of that green color that we used before. And let's just get some water on our brush. This is a brush that I already used. It's been sitting in there. And I'm just going to do some blotches. So we're going to start light to dark. So get the lightest green color and just do a little bit of that. And then start adding a little bit of darkness. Just a little bit of darkness. And you can clump them in areas. So you've got like a dark area here, maybe a dark area over here, maybe a little bit of darkness over here. Not much. And then I've got an olive green that I used. Well, I grabbed it earlier but didn't use it. So maybe I can pop in some olive green. So I'm just getting darker and darker and darker as I go. And notice I'm just using the edge of my brush. I'm not using the tip like this. I'm just kind of turning it at an angle and just using the edge. So you can't mess this up. Can't really mess it up. Since I have a little bit of blue over there, I can just cover that up with these splotches and you won't even be able to tell the difference. Okay, so that's what we're going to do with that one. We're going to come in and bring some trees in there. Now I'm going to use that same little skinny brush that I used before and that brown color that I had before. And we're going to bring in trees. They're going to be coming in from the edges. So I can have the tree trunks bigger on the edges of the square and then getting smaller. Bigger and then getting smaller because I want it to look like it's got the correct perspective. So it's like I'm standing in the middle of a forest looking up at all of these trees, and then I can add branches, but only at the top. I don't want to add any branches at the bottom, otherwise it's not going to look realistic. Just little wispy lines is all I really care about. Tiny little wispy lines. Okay. Then I can take that brush, same brush, rinse it out, dry it just a little bit. And then what I want to do is take that green, some of that green, and just kind of make my consistency first. And then I can just kind of dab in a little bit of leaves that are growing on those branches. Maybe add a little bit of that lighter green color if I want. Just a little bit. Don't make them very big. The reason why we're using a small brush is because they're far, far, far away. We want it to look realistic. And it's almost like not caring where my strokes are or where my little dabs are going because I want it to look organic. There, okay, so now it looks like we're standing and looking up at these trees that are growing in the forest. And if I wanted to, I could go in and I could add some more. It just feels like there could be a couple more in certain areas. Not all, but maybe just a couple little areas. I can add a couple more. There. That looks a little bit better. Now that this one is dry, we can do our glazing. So pretend the sun is shining through the forest this way. So what I want to do is use a brush that is squared off like this one. Okay, I haven't been using it yet. So I grabbed some yellow. I'm going to pull my yellow over here. I'm going to add a little bit of water to it, and I'm going to add a tiny, tiny hint of orange. That's not much, but just a little tiny bit, just on the tip of my brush, like this. Okay. Add a little bit of water. You want it diluted quite a bit. So this is glazing. This is working with gouache in a watercolor type of way. Very light little glazing coming across this way, okay? So I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna start bringing the sunlight in, and it's just gonna come across those trees as if the sun rays are coming in. And I'm just barely, I can add a little bit of white to it right now, but I am just barely pressing down because the last thing I want to do is reconstitute the color underneath. Okay. So that's all. I'm just going to stop right there because if I continue or push down harder, I'm going to reconstitute the brown and it might drag its way across, and I don't want that to happen. But right now I can see a little hint of the sun rays coming through the forest. So with this next one, I'm going to use a combination of blues and greens, mainly blues. And we're going to make what is going to look like overlapping mountains. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this grayish color with my palette knife. I had to clean my palette knife off, but I want to grab a little bit of that color and make sure I get that on the palette. And then I'm running out of this blue, so I think I'll grab a little bit more of that blue and get some on here. Notice I don't need a whole lot, really. And then there is a real pretty periwinkle blue that I have on in my gouache set. So I think I'm going to use that little periwinkle. So I've got this one, I've got the grayish color, and then the darker blue that I'll be using for this next one. We're going to start with the background. And the first thing we want to do is rinse out one of our brushes. I'm going to use this one right here, okay? And it's rinsed out, but it's fully saturated, so I'm just going to grab a little bit of that blue, pull it over. It's like a grayish blue. I'm just going to pull it over. And what I want to do is just start on the top, and I'm just going to wisp across like this, okay? Very wet. If it doesn't look wet on your paper, grab more water real quickly, okay? So this will be my background right here. And then what I want to do is grab a little bit of this lighter color blue, okay? And then I want to add some distant mountains. So I'm just going to do this with that color, okay? And then I'm going to dip it into the water and shake it off real gently. And you always, when you're doing these overlapping mountains, you always want to have a lot of water down below where it's flowing. And then I'm going to dip it, rinse it off again, shake it out, and then let it flow down a little bit more so that it starts to get lighter, 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 okay? And then I'm going to sit and let that dry for just a minute. Just a minute. I could take a paper towel and wave it like this to just dry it. Because what we want to do next is add a darker mountain on top of that. And then we'll let that dry. And then we'll repeat the process until we move closer and closer and closer towards us. So each time we create a mountain from dark to light, we let it dry and then add the next one. Okay, so that seems a little bit drier now. I'm going to dip my brush into the water. We haven't used this periwinkle. We want to use this one, but it's quite a bit darker. So let's pull a little bit of that into this dried area right here. Remember, you can always reconstitute gouache. So if it's dry, you just add water to it, which it's reconstituting right now. So I feel like that would be a good one, but I'm going to grab a little bit of this gray. Not much, but I want to darken it a little bit. That's better. I like that color a little bit better. So I'm going to do that. And so the next one, the next mountain, what I want to do is come up like this. Okay, just jagged, just make it jagged. And then just a hint of one right here, just a jagged edge. So now remember that my goal for each mountain is to have it get lighter on the bottom. So I want to dip my brush into the water and really, really rinse it out, and then tap it onto the cup before I do this. Pull that color down. See how it's gradually getting lighter? Same with this one. I'm going to leave that overlapping section right there. Try to not touch it, because I think that will look better if they don't blend together. So I'm just going to stay away from that area and just bring it down like this. Okay, and then let that area dry for a couple minutes. I can wave it like this. So I'm ready for my next mountain. I think I'm going to finally use this bright, bold color. And this mountain is going to come across like this and come up and down and kind of disappear right there. So I'm going to pull this color down, and then I'm going to rinse it out really good and tap some of the excess water off, and then come and bring this down like this. Bring that color all the way down to where it disappears. I can pull a little bit of this color. Here we go, that's better. Maybe get a little bit of the darker up on top. Okay. Now before we do the rest of the mountains, let's go back to this first one that we did. I added a little bit of water and white on this brush that is dry. And we're just gonna add a little bit of splatter to the background. Okay, they're just gonna be very fine little splatters. If you find that it's not working, add a little bit more water, okay? And then what I wanna do is just grab one of my fine liners, like this one right here, add a lot of water and some of that white paint, and I'm just gonna add very gently and carefully some shooting stars. Just go across. It's gonna take a little bit of control, but just a little bit of shooting stars. A couple of them, and just maybe stop at that. We just want it to be real subtle. Now let's go back to the mountains. There is one darker color of blue, and I grabbed that on the tip of my brush. I'm gonna get some more water. And we're gonna go in with a little bit of darker. Let me get a little bit more of that dark color for my palette. And quite a bit of water. And then at this point, it's okay to grab that gray. That gray is only gonna make it better, I think. Okay, we're gonna bring a mountain in over here. It's just gonna come down like this. Okay, down like that. I'm dipping my brush into the water again, rinsing it out real good, and then flicking it, just tapping it. And then I'm gonna bring this color down, rinse it out some more, and then get some of the water off, and then bring it down some more. Okay, all the way to the bottom. Okay, and then we'll have one more mountain overlapping it, coming across this way. Now let's let this dry. So for the grassy field, this is going to be our grassy field. The darkest green that you have should be right here. Go ahead and grab a little bit of that. And then you might as well put it on the green palette section, because we're going to use greens anyway. So let's just put it on there. And then let's just use a big brush. So the biggest brush I have is this angled big brush. And all I'm gonna do is just get a smooth consistency going here. The darkest green that we have adding a little bit of brown to it. And then we're gonna start on the bottom, adding that dark color up to almost the top, maybe about right here. And then just lightly get it to kind of look like a dry brush at the top, because we're gonna blend another color into it. So make sure it's not a solid line, okay? So get that color going there. Maybe even add a little bit of brown to the bottom of it so it's the darkest. Okay, get a little more green on it and add there. Now look, it should look very smooth on your paper. Shouldn't see any strokes, and if you do, that just means you need more pigment, and it means maybe you're pressing down too hard. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is switch brushes. I'm gonna grab another one that's already soaking in the water and just rinse it out, and grab a little bit of a greenish yellow. So see, I've got this green over here, so I'm just gonna take some of that yellow since I already had it, and I'm gonna add a greenish yellow to the top, and I'm just gonna kind of wisp it in. Ooh, that's a little. I'm gonna add a little bit more white to it. That's just a little bit bright. So I'm gonna just go ahead and do that. Okay, just kind of leaving some areas. Rinse your brush out real quickly, and then just grab a little bit of some of this blue. That will be my blue sky. I'm just gonna pop it in real quickly. And if they blend together, that's okay. Then what I want to do is take a dry brush and do some dry brush work. I could add a little bit down here if I wanted to kind of cover up some of those whiter areas. Okay, now here's another thing that I can do with this brush. I'm just gonna take some of this lighter color. It's got a little bit of water in it, which will help with pulling some of these strokes. And what I wanna do is make grass on this area as well. So you don't want dark grass because this is a dark background, so you kind of want the lighter color. That's why I grabbed that bright color. And so these strokes are a little bit bigger because they're closer to me. And then I can go in, I'm getting a little bit closer. So then by the time I get closer here, the strokes are longer and a little bit bigger, right? And it seems like I'm running out of water a little bit, but I'm gonna not press my paintbrush into the water because then I will ruin what I've got going. So I'm just kind of going, these are the ones that are in front, and so I want to make them bigger, and I'm just gonna make some of them go to the side a little bit. They don't all have to be straight up and down. You want it to look realistic. So you definitely want them to go different directions. Okay, you can add a little bit. I'm adding a little bit of that white in there because that's okay, but you know, maybe the wind's blowing some of these, so they're going at an angle a little bit. But I could definitely work on this and add even more layers than what I'm doing, but just for our demonstration purposes, I think this is probably good enough for our grassy field. I think we're ready for our last hill. It's going to come across to here. But what I want to do is use some of this color that I had before. I'm dipping my brush in the water right now, getting some more water for that. And then what I want to do is grab some of this green. Maybe this green right here would be great. Kind of darken it up. Maybe a little bit of this as well. And then if I wanted to, which I think it might be a good idea, grab a little bit of this brown. So rather than going to black,
let's stay away from black and let's just use brown to neutralize. And let's bring this mountain kind of across right here, overlapping and then coming down. We want to see some of this lightness right there. Okay, so this one can be more of just a hill if you'd like. And then it's going to be dark all the way down. Like that. So as a recap of what we did a couple really good blending backgrounds where we started from dark to light. We added clouds to this one in more of a dry brush technique. We added some splatter with some shooting stars to this one. We did a couple forest scenes, one of them in the forest where you're looking up at the trees, so integrating some perspective into a painting. This one is in the forest with the sunlight shining through the forest and glazing. So we watered it down to appear kind of like watercolor and used it as a glazing effect. Then we did a landscape of overlapping mountains and created the tops of the mountains darker and diluted them, and they got lighter on the bottom. And then we created a grassy field with some dry brush textures. So now all we need to do is tear these washi tape pieces off. Tear off your washi tape like this. They should tear off clean and smooth. Hopefully, I got a little bit of sticky right there, but the rest of them tore off pretty clean. That's what our finished technique page looks like.